for Chapter 6, we're going to look at allocative efficiency and a production possibilities frontier. To start off, we're going to do a production possibilities frontier. We're going to say that we're in a world where we only have two goods that we produce. In this case, I've chosen guns and butter as our two goods that we could potentially produce. A lot of times what we do is we say take butter and compare it to all other goods. We clump everything else into one good. But for here, we're going to keep it as just there's two goods within the world, within our economy, guns and butter. And what we're going to say is, what if we spent all of our time producing nothing but guns? How many guns could we produce? And we would say, okay, well, if we produced 0 butter, so we would be right here on the x-axis, and we spent all of our time producing guns, how many guns could we produce? So we're going to just give a hypothetical point right here. And then we're going to say, well, wait, what if we wanted to create a couple units of butter, right? So instead of being at 0, we wanted to produce a couple units. Well, how many guns could we produce then? Well, certainly if we spent a little bit of our time producing butter, we'd be stealing some from the time that we were producing guns. And so we couldn't produce as many guns as we could if we spent all of our time producing guns. So we know that we're going to produce a little bit less guns in order to produce some butter. And then we could keep doing this. Hey, let's produce a little bit more butter than that. Well, then we're not going to be at quite this height of guns, right? And we're not going for exact points. It could be shaped a little bit different than this. What we're going for is just the theoretical concept. So we would keep doing this and keep doing this, and lo and behold, we could get to a point where, let's say, we decided to produce nothing but butter. So if we said, hey, all we want to do is produce butter, and we don't want any guns. Who wants anything to do with any guns anyway? Right? So we decide we're going to produce 0 on the y-axis. If we spent all of our time producing butter, right, how much could we produce? And we'll come up with some theoretical point like here. And then what we can do is we can actually connect all of these theoretical points. And that is our production possibilities frontier, or our PPF. What that means is that's the frontier of what our production possibilities are, right? How much can we possibly produce? This is the most. That's the furthest we can go. It's the frontier. It's the end of what we could do. We cannot produce at this point X. We're incapable of producing that much butter while producing that much guns. We're incapable of producing Y. Right? We could produce that much butter, but not while producing that much guns, right? So we can't produce these points outside of that production possibilities frontier, right? So this right here is our production possibilities frontier. We could produce something, it's possible to produce something like 0.0, but that wouldn't be very efficient. We would be giving something up. We would be saying, hey, all we're producing is this much butter. Well, why would we stop at this much guns then? If we're just going to produce this much butter, we might as well produce on our frontier in terms of guns. So we're assuming that we're actually using all of our available resources here. It's the possibilities for our production capabilities. Right? Now, one other concept we said we wanted to mention here is allocative efficiency. That means that not only do we produce efficiently, as we said, along this frontier and not inside of it, right? Not only do we produce efficiently, but we actually allocate those resources efficiently, right? It could be that this is a point that we could choose where we make a whole lot of butter and not very much guns. But if our society doesn't really want to exist where we have not very much guns and a whole lot of butter, let's say we're warmongers, yes, that would be productively efficient to be on that point of the curve, but it wouldn't really meet the needs of our society. So it wouldn't be allocated correctly. So if we're a bunch of warmongers and we want to have a whole bunch of guns, a point that could be allocatively efficiently might be some point like here. We're productively efficient and we've allocated our resources the way that we'd like them. We have a little bit of butter, right? We've got a little bit of butter and a whole bunch of guns, right? So we met a lot of guns and at least a little bit of butter, and so those resources are actually allocated correctly. If we were way down here, we'd have too much butter, not enough guns. If we're all guns and no butter, well, we wouldn't be happy with that either, right? We have too much guns relative to butter. We're willing to have a little bit fewer guns in order to have this much butter. Right, so that would be the resources are allocated correctly along the production possibilities frontier. So we need to be on the PPF to be producing efficiently, but we need to be on the right point of the PPF to have allocative efficiency.